Cryptobud here for today. Litecoin analysis, let's take a look at the first one, fundamentally and technically. And what you're going to find here is something really interesting. So the first question is, why Litecoin? Litecoin is a global decentralized currency. It's basically Bitcoin 2.0. Litecoin has a much faster and streamlined technology. In my opinion, it is actually far superior technologically than Bitcoin. Think of two highways. One highway is completely crowded with a bunch of trucks, cars, God knows what else is in there. Nobody's moving. Fees are high. Litecoin is the exact opposite. Someone just built a highway that is literally empty. So in terms of Litecoin, it allows you to transact using blockchain technology off the Bitcoin platform in its entirety. The source code is also open. It's a limited cap of coins, and basically it's a little bit more than a Bitcoin. However, it does the exact same functionality as Bitcoin. They have a Litecoin core wallet for the phone, and they also have a coin wallet for the computer, which makes transactions faster and accessible. Here's my investment thesis, and I think that, as you guys already know, I like to think of Litecoin as an investment and not necessarily as a trade. I extremely like Litecoin just because it's one of those coins that has been around for a while, and in fact it has a lot of potential, but people are still underestimated and still believe it is silver to Bitcoin, which I completely disagree. All right, for the first thing, this is the order of importance when I look at coins that I'm reviewing. The first one is that Litecoin, well, we'll take a look at see which ones of these it actually hits. The first one is the investment thesis is number one. It has to be scarce. Coins do not rise because if do not rise just because. They rise because they derive value for someone or an organization. They also they have some sort of, which basically means they have utility. And the second one, which is most important, is they actually are scarce. In other words, they are not inflationary. Second point is that they have to have community and branding. What that means is that they have to have active marketing, adoption, and also brand recognition across the board. The third one is, in order of importance, is they have to have active development. Developers have to be constantly upgrading the system, their network, and adding in improvements and enhancements to extract more value from the coin itself. And the last one is technology, is what are some key technological features they have, and the last one is going to be funding. Some people may disagree with this, and I completely understand that, but for my personal opinion, for my investments, I usually look at the first two. Coins that do not fit in there don't usually last too long, in my opinion. Litecoin has one of the key features is that it actually has some sort of community going on. Now when I say community, is because community meaning that it's got brand awareness and people are actively talking about it. If you take a look at the Google Trends for Litecoin, it's basically been on a tear since April. And what that basically means is that there is a lot of interest in Litecoin, but not necessarily in the media. And so one of the problems with Litecoin is that a lot of people do not really know about it because Bitcoin takes the spotlight. And the second thing is Litecoin is considered to be a carbon copy of Bitcoin, which technically it is. So, however, we're starting to see a difference in that pickup. And so Litecoin has that ability now to tap into that community that probably wasn't there before. Second thing on community, I've went ahead and took this to show some proof of this. Litecoin community charts on the Reddit subscribers were about 31,000, which is, compared to Bitcoin, it's not as high as Bitcoin, but it's getting up there. Twitter followers, 35,000, a very healthy following. And Facebook likes, I mean, I kind of take a look at that one. But notice the trends since September of 2014 when we had that nice pop. The green line, which indicates the Facebook likes, have been basically elevated. However, the price for Litecoin has not caught up. Second thing is, notice carefully on the black line, you'll see that Twitter subscribers is also at all-time high with September of 2014. And if you take a look at the blue line, which is the Reddit, we're starting to see a lot more pickup. So in terms of the interest, I don't agree when people say that Litecoin is, let's just say, there. The proof is right here, guys. If you take a look at the trends, the price action in September of 14 and 13 was a lot higher than what we're at right now. And so what you're seeing here is that you're seeing this trend moving up towards the increasing side. So the question now becomes is that why are people interested in Litecoin? But again, facts speak for themselves. Transaction costs, key feature for Litecoin. First of all, if you take a look at the average transactions versus Bitcoin, it's obviously not going to be as high. However, when we're looking at the cost itself, we're looking at about per Litecoin, the average transaction value for Litecoin is $28,000, which means people are moving a lot of money using this coin. 20 grand moving up and down, huge. Second thing is taking a look at the actual transaction value. In the median, the average ones is $510 USD. So basically what you're saying is people are transferring smaller amounts more frequently. However, the average is 28,000. So you do get people who are who are actually transacting very large sums of money. But the key thing I want you guys to mention here, is that this value right here, Litecoin is going to kind of take that with Dash. So it's going to be Litecoin versus Dash in terms of which coin is going to stay. Is going to really determine the average transaction. If Litecoin can capitalize on the microtransactions, anything $500 or less than that, you're going to start seeing a lot more pickup. Now here's what the interesting part is. The actual fees themselves for Litecoin, it is tiny. It's almost negligible. 0.12 cents average, and the median average transaction fee is 0.016. So basically a penny every single time you're transacting values. So I'm going to throw this out to you, right? If you're experiencing Bitcoin transaction fees, why would someone go with Bitcoin when they could use Litecoin as not only as a medium of exchange, but also on the saving themselves on the fees? And I can tell you, look at the graph right here on the last 24 hours, the fees are basically great. So it's basically, it costs almost zero to transact large sums of money. Okay, so keep that in mind as we go forward. All right, historical price for Litecoin, just taking a look at the technicals real quick. January 14 was really when we hit that peak for Litecoin at about 0.13 Bitcoin USD. So the way it works is that if you take a look at the price of Litecoin, we are not even at the 14th level, considering that Litecoin went with SegWit and that Litecoin is considering using the Lightning technology to bridge with that Bitcoin. So the question is, do we have any more upside? Absolutely. There's a lot more upside just because the community has been a lot more active since then. Okay. And I think I'm going to show this picture here. All right, key features of Litecoin really fast. Litecoin has a history, which means that out of all the coins out there, the 700 plus coins, probably reaching 800, Litecoin is probably one of the few that has stuck around, and it's considered to be one of the long-term holders of that top 10 list. So my money, hard-earned money, needs to go in the coins that are not going to blow out and sell out because of whatever reason. Second thing is that it is actually a clone of Bitcoin. So what that basically means that it will, if Bitcoin does a specific program, Litecoin can always implement that same infrastructure and development. So what that really means is that if Bitcoin decides to go in a certain direction, Litecoin could always kind of catch up, because basically they are from that same infrastructure and that same development program. Apart from Bitcoin, Litecoin also has the biggest investment into mining machines. So this is actually a proof of work. What that basically means is that if the mining rigs are becoming more expensive for Bitcoin because of the complexity of the actual mining and the more energy that you need, Litecoin already has that infrastructure built. So the miners can automatically switch from Bitcoin to Litecoin to begin mining that out. Now, obviously, what that basically means is that the node count is going to always be elevated or sustained because the mining rigs have already still been there. So in terms of the investments into the mining machines, it's there. The other one has got a 2.5 minute block time, so it's really, really fast in terms of adding these blocks in. And so what you're not really seeing in Bitcoin, you are seeing in Litecoin. And that's where I talk about that speed, right? That speed of transaction is really because of that idea. Now, the Litecoin has a foundation which basically controls a good chunk, well, not a good chunk, but it controls a certain amount of Litecoin to fund its development. And the miners have agreed to basically give the foundation a small piece of the block rewards to keep funding the development for Litecoin. So in terms of the money that's being in there, they don't have, let's just say, something as great as Dash, where you have the master nodes and all that. However, the miners have basically said, you know what, in order to keep the price going and in order to make sure that we're not setting behind, we're going to go ahead and do that. So far, we haven't heard any drama regarding Litecoin. Okay, so with that said, I know Litecoin is probably one of the things that people are not really quite interested in. I think it's an undervalued currency. I think it's one of those currencies that could survive the bloodbath, which if Bitcoin decides to sell off, Litecoin can kind of pick up that slack for whatever reason. The other thing, let's take a look at the technicals real quick here. And on the technicals, what we're going to find here is Litecoin is basically treading water in the last couple of weeks and months. Now here, the chart does not look good, guys. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I wish Litecoin would have broken out sooner, but this is actually good because we can start accumulating some of these coins before the public begins to wise up about Bitcoin's problems. So first thing is we are actually getting stuck here at that 0.1 level. We've been kind of treading water here for a while. What I'm noticing here is that we're starting seeing an uptick on the actual price. So the lows is what I'm really concerned about. Not concerned about, I'm actually happy about, is that we're actually hitting higher lows here. And in terms of the actual highs, it's not consistent, so I can't make a recommendation on the price in terms of the top side. But all I can say is that the RSI indicators are indicating strength on this move. So what that basically means is that we're going to get some sort of price movement on the upside in the near-term future. Now, in terms of portfolio allocation, in terms of where Litecoin's going to be at, the problems that Bitcoin's going to have in the next couple of months, moving into the soft fork or the hard fork or whatever it decides to do, the BIP 148, it's going to spill over to the other coins, and specifically, it's going to probably affect Litecoin in the short term. However, I do feel that Litecoin does have the potential to pick up a lot of the problems that Bitcoin has not solved yet. So people are going to rotate money out of Bitcoin and begin to use Litecoin as that. The other thing is Litecoin, unfortunately, has a larger supply account for coin count than Bitcoin. But the more important thing is not so much about the number of coins, but the fact that it is capped. So Litecoin provides that storage of value, that potential storage of value that Bitcoin has. And I think that as people begin to migrate away from Bitcoin, they're going to have to find an alternative. And right now we got Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, Ripple as your top 5. And the only two that have the scarcity thesis that I was talking about earlier is Ethereum Classic and Litecoin. Now, Ethereum, as we already know, is inflationary. So there's no way that they can cap that unless they change the actual structure and go to proof of stake, where they basically cap the number of ether that they put out. I don't really see that happening, but hey, who knows, right? But Ethereum Classic has already committed to that. However, those two are on a different form of crypto currencies. They're actually crypto assets. So it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. So my take on it is that if you're a Bitcoin, if you want some Bitcoin in, consider Litecoin. And start unloading some of that Bitcoin as we head into August, just because there's so much uncertainty right now in terms of what Bitcoin's going to do and what Bitcoin's not going to do. And I don't know if they can solve the transaction fees. The other day I was transacting Bitcoin, and they charged me like $10 just to move Bitcoin from one point to another, and that's not even using Bitcoin as a currency to buy things. So what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that the transaction fees for Bitcoin are just ridiculous. I mean, there's no reason why Bitcoin should be charging $7, $10 per transaction, while Litecoin is charging a penny. Okay, so it's not even close. It's basically 70 to 1 ratio on what the cost is. It's kind of ridiculous. So with that said, keep an eye on Litecoin. There's a couple of things by Charlie Lee. He was talking about Lightning and how Lightning is going to be used to bridge that gap between Litecoin and Bitcoin. If that happens, then people are going to automatically ditch Bitcoin altogether. So keep an eye on that. Okay, so it's Cryptobud signing off. Have a good day. Peace.